Welcome back. Tonight, we drift through the sleepy streets of Edinburgh. So wherever you are, however your day has been, you have nothing to do now but rest. There are no twists tonight, nothing to follow, nothing you need to remember in the morning. A city of dark stone and steep closes, growing quiet beneath a rolling sea harp, will drift slowly in no hurry to be anywhere at all. If these journeys help you rest, you're welcome to follow along, but only if you'd like to. And if you're listening now, leave the name of your city and the time where you are. Wherever you're listening from, you're in good company tonight. So let yourself settle. Let your shoulders soften. And let your eyes close whenever they're ready. Breathe in slowly. And let it go. There's no need to stay awake for any of this. Just let the streets of Edinburgh come to you. The shape of Edinburgh tells a very old story. It begins not with people but with ice and fire. A great river of ice once flowed slowly across this land. It moved from west to east. It met a stubborn obstacle in its path, the hard, ancient core of a dead volcano. The glacier was forced to split and flow around this rock. In its wake, it left a protected slope of softer earth. This created a gentle ramp, leading down from the high crag. This landform is called a crag and tail. The hard rock became the foundation for a castle. The long, sloping tail became the path for a famous street. The Royal Mile follows a line that was carved by a glacier. It is a memory of the Ice Age written into the city's very bones. If you stand in Princes Street Gardens today, you are standing on the floor of a lost lake. The deep valley between the old and new towns was not always filled with green lawns and flower beds. For centuries it held a vast body of water called the Nor Loch. It was meant to be a defensive moat for the fortified city on the hill. But it also became the city's open sewer. It was a dark, foul, and polluted place. The smell must have been overwhelming. In the 1760s, the city decided it needed to expand. The great, dark loch was drained away. This act connected the old city to the new one that was about to be born. The beautiful gardens we see now cover a very grim history, hidden just beneath the surface. By the mid-1700s, Edinburgh's old town was in crisis. It was dangerously overcrowded and unsanitary. The city's wealthiest and most influential people began to leave. They were moving to the clean, elegant squares of London. The city fathers feared a total collapse. They had to do something to convince their citizens to stay. So, in 1766, they held a competition. They sought a design for an entirely new city. It would be a place of order, elegance and space, a direct contrast to the chaotic old town. A young architect named James Craig won. His plan was not just a development. It was a bold statement, a calculated gamble to build a new, better Edinburgh, right next to the old one. It was the city's desperate and beautiful attempt to save itself from ruin. In November of 1824, a fire broke out in the old town. It spread with terrifying speed through the tall, tightly packed tenement buildings. For days the city burned. The Great Fire of 1824 was a catastrophe. It left hundreds of families homeless and scarred the ancient heart of the city. But from this disaster, something important was born. The fire exposed how unprepared the city was. There was no organized way to fight such a blaze. A man named James Braidwood stepped forward. He had watched the chaos and knew there had to be a better way. He went on to create the world's first municipal fire brigade, right here in Edinburgh. He developed new techniques for training and fighting fires. His methods became the model for fire services all over the world, a lasting legacy born from flames. At the end of the 17th century, Scotland was an independent nation with big ambitions. The country invested heavily in a bold plan called the Darien Scheme. It was an attempt to establish a Scottish trading colony in Panama. The dream was to create a gateway between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. But the plan was a complete disaster. Disease, poor planning and political interference led to its collapse. The failure was so total that it bankrupted the entire nation of Scotland. The country was left economically broken and desperate. This financial ruin was a key reason why the Scottish Parliament, just a few years later, reluctantly agreed to the Act of Union with England in 1707. The loss of a Central American dream led directly to the loss of a nation's independence. The old town of Edinburgh grew upwards, not outwards. This vertical shape was not a choice. It was a reaction to fear. In 1513, Scotland suffered a terrible defeat at the Battle of Flodden. The king, and much of the nobility, were killed. A wave of panic swept through Edinburgh. The city was vulnerable to English attack. So, the citizens hastily built a new, stronger defensive wall. This Flodden wall encircled the city, but it also became a cage. For the next 200 years, the city's population grew, but its footprint could not. With nowhere to go, buildings were torn down and rebuilt, higher and higher. The tall, crowded tenements that define the old town's character are a direct result of that long-ago fear. The city was trapped inside its own defenses, forced to reach for the sky. The gentle slope that connects the old and new towns is called the Mound. It looks like a natural hill, a convenient ramp between two ridges. But it is not natural at all. It is a man-made bridge of earth. When the city began building the new town in the late 18th century, workers excavated huge amounts of soil to lay the foundations. They needed somewhere to put all this earth. The answer was right there, in the deep valley where the Nor Loch used to be. For years, a steady stream of horse-drawn carts dumped their loads into the valley. Over 2 million cartloads of soil, rock and rubble slowly built up this artificial hill. The mound is literally made from the foundations of the new town. It physically bridges the city's past and its future. The arrival of the railway in the 19th century was a moment of great progress. It promised to connect Edinburgh to the world, like never before. But it came at a cost. The city decided to lay the tracks right in the heart of things. They were placed in the newly landscaped valley between the old and new towns. This was the very same valley that had been the foul Nor Loch, then the beautiful Princess Street Gardens. The construction of Waverley Station and its sprawling tracks cut the gardens in two. It created a permanent scar of noise and smoke in the city's green centre. The railway brought the modern world to Edinburgh's doorstep. But it also drove a wedge right through the middle of the city, a division that is still there today. In 1947, Europe was still a landscape of ruins and quiet grief. The Second World War had left deep wounds across the continent. In this atmosphere of recovery, a group of visionaries in Edinburgh had an idea. They decided to create a festival. It was not just for entertainment. It was founded with a specific, deeply felt purpose. They wanted to create, in their own words, a platform for the flowering of the human spirit. The goal was to heal the wounds of war through culture. They invited artists and audiences from all over the world to come together. They hoped to foster understanding and connection in a city that had been spared the worst of the bombing. The Edinburgh Festival was born from a belief that art could help put a broken world back together again. For most of its long history, Leith was not part of Edinburgh. It was its own town, a separate burgh with a fierce sense of independence. It was a working port, with its own culture, its own government, and its own rivalries with the capital city up on the hill. Then, in 1920, against the will of most of Leith's residents, the two towns were forced to merge. The amalgamation was deeply resented. The people of Leith felt they had been swallowed by their larger, wealthier neighbour. This tension shaped the relationship between the port and the city for decades. It created a feeling of us and them that lingered for generations. Even today you can feel a different energy in Leith, a faint echo of its past as a proud, independent town that was once a rival to Edinburgh. The Scottish Reformation in the 16th century was a time of profound change. It was led by the fiery preacher John Knox, who often spoke from the pulpit of St. Giles Cathedral. This movement didn't just change what people believed. It changed the very look and feel of the city's sacred spaces. The reformers saw the beautiful art and ornamentation of the Catholic Church as idolatry. They believed it distracted from the true worship of God. So, they began a campaign of stripping the churches. Statues were torn down, stained glass was smashed, and ornate altars were removed. This created the austere, plain aesthetic that you can still see in many of Scotland's ancient churches today. The bare stone walls of St. Giles are a silent testament to a time when faith became a force of destruction as well as creation. Edinburgh's grand bridges are more than just a way to cross a valley. They are feats of urban engineering that completely transformed the city. Before they were built, getting around was difficult. To go from the high street to the university, for example, you had to descend into the dirty, crowded Cowgate Valley and then climb back up. It was undignified and unpleasant. The North Bridge and the George IV Bridge were designed to solve this problem. They were built to soar over the squalid parts of the old town. They created level, dignified thoroughfares that allowed the city to expand southwards. These bridges were not just about crossing from A to B. They were about bypassing the past and creating a new, more rational city on a higher plane, both literally and socially. During the 18th century, Edinburgh earned a famous nickname, the Athens of the North. This was not just a casual compliment. It was a conscious aspiration. This was the time of the Scottish Enlightenment, a period of incredible intellectual activity. Thinkers like the philosopher David Hume and the economist Adam Smith were changing the world from their homes in Edinburgh. They and their contemporaries saw a parallel between their small, vibrant city and the classical Athens of ancient Greece. Both were centers of philosophy, science, and democracy. This ambition was not just intellectual. It was also architectural. The city began to build grand, neoclassical buildings. The unfinished National Monument on Calton Hill is the most obvious example. It was a deliberate attempt to physically model Edinburgh on the ideals of Athens. In the mid-19th century, a great hunger began in Ireland. The failure of the potato crop led to famine and desperation. Thousands of Irish families were forced to leave their homes in search of survival. Many of them made the difficult journey to Scotland, and a large number arrived in Edinburgh. They came with nothing. They sought refuge in the already crowded and impoverished area of the Cowgate. This part of the city became known as Little Ireland. The arrival of so many poor Catholic immigrants in a predominantly Protestant city was a profound shock. It changed the city's demographics and its social fabric forever. It added a new layer of culture and hardship to the city's story, a story of survival that played out in the darkest corners of the old town. For centuries, getting clean water in the old town was a daily struggle. The city relied on a few public wells, known as wellheads. People would have to queue for hours to get their ration of water. The supply was often insufficient and easily contaminated, which contributed to the spread of disease. In the 17th century, the city decided on a radical solution. They commissioned a marvel of engineering for the time. A long lead pipe was laid, running for over 2 miles from the fresh springs in the Pentland Hills, all the way into the city. This was Edinburgh's first piped water supply. It was a desperate and expensive solution to a life-threatening problem. It was a hidden revolution, an underground line that brought the promise of health and cleanliness to the overcrowded city. In the early 19th century, canals were the arteries of the Industrial Revolution. Edinburgh built one of its own, the Union Canal. Its purpose was to bring coal and other minerals from the industrial heartlands of central Scotland into the capital. For a short time, it was a busy commercial waterway. Barges moved slowly along its length, a vital supply line for the growing city. But its commercial life was surprisingly brief. Just 2 decades after the canal opened, a new technology arrived: the railway. Trains were faster, cheaper, and more efficient. They quickly made the canal obsolete for carrying heavy goods. The once bustling waterway fell quiet. It was left to become what it is today, a peaceful, recreational corridor on the edge of the city, a quiet reminder of a short-lived industrial past. When Scotland decided to build a new Parliament building in the late 1990s, the choice of location was hugely important. Where do you place a new seat of democracy in a city so heavy with history? The site they chose was at the very bottom of the Royal Mile. It sits in the shadow of the ancient volcano, Arthur's Seat. It is overlooked by the rugged Salisbury Crags. And it is just a short walk from the Queen's official residence, the Palace of Holyrood House. This was a deliberate and controversial choice. It placed Scotland's modern, forward-looking democracy right at the heart of its royal and geological history. The building's radical, modern architecture creates a stark contrast with its ancient surroundings. It is a statement about the nation's future, planted firmly in the soil of its past. Edinburgh is a major financial centre today, but this status didn't appear overnight. Its roots go back to the 17th and 18th centuries. As Scotland's trade with the world grew, merchants and lawyers in the city found they needed new ways to manage their money. They began to create new kinds of institutions, banks to hold their wealth, and insurance firms to protect their investments in ships and cargo. This was the birth of Edinburgh's financial sector. It grew organically from the needs of a city that was looking outwards, trading with the colonies and the expanding British Empire. The grand banking halls that still line the streets of the new town are monuments to this era. They were built to project an image of stability and power, a confidence born from global trade and careful management of wealth. The name of the city is older than Scotland itself. It whispers of a time of different kingdoms and different languages. The earliest recorded name for the place is Din Aiden. These words are found in a Welsh poem from the 7th century. They translate as, "the fort of Aiden." This tells us that the city began as a fortress on a hill. It was a stronghold for a Brittonic kingdom, whose people spoke a language related to modern Welsh. This was long before the idea of Scotland existed. The name Edinburgh is a later, anglicised version of this ancient name. It is a reminder that before the castle, before the old town, before the Royal Mile, this place was simply a high, defensible rock. It was a fort belonging to the people of Aiden, a name that has echoed through 14 centuries. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Edinburgh was a world leader in medical education. Its university and medical schools were a magnet for ambitious students from all over the globe. They came here to learn from the best minds in the field. One of these students was a young man named Charles Darwin. He enrolled to study medicine in 1825, long before his famous voyage on the Beagle. He attended lectures on anatomy and geology, ideas that would later shape his revolutionary theories. However, Darwin did not enjoy his medical studies. He found the surgical demonstrations, which were performed without anesthetic, to be brutal and horrifying. He eventually dropped out. But his time in Edinburgh exposed him to the latest scientific thinking. It was a crucial, if unsettling, step on his journey to becoming one of history's most important scientists. For a long time, the economy of Edinburgh was built on two things: beer and books. The city was home to massive breweries that produced beer for the world. It was also a major center for printing and publishing. The air in neighborhoods like Fountainbridge was thick, with the smell of hops and malt. But in the 20th century, these great industries began to decline. The breweries and printing works closed down one by one. They left behind empty, derelict industrial buildings. The city was forced to reinvent itself. It had to find a new economic purpose. Former industrial areas were cleared and redeveloped. The city pivoted, turning its focus towards the growing sectors of finance, technology, and tourism. The modern glass office buildings that stand where the breweries once smoked are a symbol of this profound economic shift. The year 1645 was one of the darkest in Edinburgh's history. The plague returned to the city with a terrifying force. This outbreak of the foul pestilence was one of the worst disasters the city ever faced. It is estimated that it killed as much as half of the entire population. The city authorities were overwhelmed. In a desperate attempt to control the spread of the disease, they took extreme measures. Anyone who showed symptoms was forcibly removed from their home. They were taken to the Burg Muir, a large area of open land south of the city walls. There, they were isolated in crude makeshift huts, to live or die. The city tried to quarantine itself from its own sick citizens. It was a grim and desperate time, a memory of which still haunts the city's story. The geography of Edinburgh is a story told in 3 parts. First, there is the high ridge of the old town, crowned by the castle. This is the city's ancient heart. Then, there is the low-lying valley, once a lake, and now home to gardens and a train station. Finally, there is the second ridge, where the orderly streets of the new town were laid out. This natural 3-part landscape shaped the city's social structure for over a century. The old town became the domain of the poor and the traditional. The new town was for the wealthy, the modern and the ambitious. And the valley in between was a physical and social barrier. This vertical separation created 3 distinct zones. Each had its own character, its own economy, and its own way of life, all within a single city. On top of Calton Hill stands a monument that is a powerful symbol of ambition and failure. The National Monument of Scotland was intended to be a magnificent replica of the Parthenon in Athens. It was started in 1826 to commemorate the Scottish soldiers who had died in the Napoleonic Wars. It was a grand patriotic gesture, part of the city's, Athens of the North, identity. But the project was plagued by problems from the start. The organizers struggled to raise enough money. Construction began, but soon the funds ran out completely. The work stopped, leaving only a dozen columns and a base. For years it was known as Edinburgh's disgrace. But over time, the city has grown to love its beautiful, unfinished ruin. It has become a picturesque and poignant landmark in its own right. The South Bridge in Edinburgh is not what it appears to be. From the street it looks like a normal road, lined with shops and buildings. But it is in fact a massive bridge structure. It was built in the 1780s to span the deep Cowgate Valley, allowing the city to expand southwards. The bridge consists of 19 huge stone arches. But instead of leaving them open, the builders sealed them up. They created a series of hidden underground chambers, or vaults, within the bridge itself. The street you walk on is the roof of this enormous structure. This clever piece of engineering created a new, level thoroughfare. It spurred the development of the university and the new southern districts. It was a bridge that disguised itself as a street, hiding a secret city of arches beneath its surface. Beneath the solid ground of the South Bridge, there is another world. A hidden city of stone arches lies in the dark. These are the Edinburgh vaults. When the bridge was built, these sealed arches were intended for storage and workshops. Cobblers and smugglers worked in the damp, windowless spaces. But soon, the vaults began to leak. They became uninhabitable for business. So they became home to the city's most desperate and destitute people. Whole families lived in these dark, wet, and miserable conditions. Eventually, even they were driven out. The vaults were abandoned, filled with rubble, and forgotten for more than a century. They were only rediscovered in the 1980s. Now, you can walk through these empty, silent chambers. You can feel the cold and the damp, and imagine the lives that were lived and lost down here. There is a street in Edinburgh that has not seen the sun for over 250 years. Mary King's Close was once a busy, thriving alleyway in the heart of the old town. It was a narrow street, lined with tall tenement houses. People lived, worked, and died here. But in the 18th century, the city decided to build a brand new building, the Royal Exchange, on this site. Instead of demolishing the old close, they did something strange. They simply lopped off the tops of the buildings, and used the lower floors as foundations. The old street was sealed up and buried. It became a ghost street, hidden beneath the new one. Today, you can go down a flight of stairs and step back in time. You can walk on the original cobblestones of a 17th century street, now deep underground. The dark, Gothic spire that dominates Princes Street is a monument to a writer. It is a cathedral built to honor the imagination of one man, Sir Walter Scott. The Scott Monument is the largest memorial to a writer anywhere in the world. It is a fantastically intricate structure, a forest of dark stone pinnacles and arches. It seems almost too complex to be real. If you look closely, you will see that the monument is not just an abstract shape. It is covered in small statues. There are 64 of them in total, tucked into niches all over the spire. Each one represents a character from one of Scott's famous novels. The entire building is a tribute to his storytelling. It is a library of characters written in stone, a testament to the power of words to shape a city's identity. The steep hills of Edinburgh's old town create a strange and confusing architecture. The city is built on a slope, so buildings have to adapt in unusual ways. Many of the old tenement buildings have a peculiar feature. They have entrances on different streets, at completely different levels. You might enter a building from a narrow alley, or close, and find yourself on what feels like the ground floor. You could then walk through the building, go up a few flights of stairs, and exit through another door. But when you step outside, you find you are on a different street, 8 stories above the alley where you started. It is a city of hidden connections and vertical puzzles. The idea of a ground floor is not always a simple one in the old town. It all depends on which door you use. On the pavement of the Royal Mile, near St. Giles Cathedral, there is a heart-shaped mosaic made of coloured cobblestones. This is the heart of Midlothian. It is not a romantic gesture. It marks a place of fear and despair. For centuries, this spot was the entrance to the old Tolbooth, the city's main prison. It was a brutal and terrifying place, a symbol of the harsh justice of the time. The prison was so hated that when it was finally demolished in 1817, the public celebrated. The only thing that remains is this heart in the pavement. It is a quiet reminder of the grim building that once stood here. It marks the doorway through which thousands of people passed, many of them on their way to trial, torture, or execution. A simple shape for a very complicated history. The Scottish Parliament building is a complex and abstract piece of architecture. Its shapes and forms can seem random at first glance. But there is a hidden story in the details. Look closely at the windows. The distinctive, leaf-shaped wooden frames that cover the glass are not just a random pattern. The architect, Enric Morales, drew inspiration from a surprising source. He was looking at a famous Scottish painting, The Skating Minister, by Henry Raeburn. The painting shows a clergyman gliding gracefully on a frozen loch. Morales took the silhouette of the minister, with his arms outstretched, and abstracted it. He turned that shape into the branch-like mullions of the windows. It is a subtle, poetic connection between modern architecture and classic Scottish art, a hidden dance of form and history that most people walk right past. The skyline of the old town is punctuated by a unique and elegant shape. It is the spire of St. Giles Cathedral. But it is not a normal spire. It is a crown. The famous crown steeple dates back to the 15th century. From a distance it looks like a solid piece of stone, a royal crown placed on top of the church. But as you get closer, you see that it is an illusion. It is not solid at all. It is an open, delicate structure. It is made of 8 stone arches, called flying buttresses, that curve up to meet at a central point. It is a masterpiece of medieval engineering, a way of creating the image of a heavy crown with a structure that is light and airy. It is a symbol of power, made of stone and empty space. High up on the wall of a building near the castle, something is out of place. A dark metal sphere is embedded in the stone. It is a cannonball. The story that is often told is a dramatic one. It is said that the cannonball was fired from the castle during the Jacobite Rising of 1745. The gunner was aiming for the palace of Holyrood House at the other end of the Royal Mile, where the enemy leader was staying. But the shot was a terrible miss. The truth is probably less exciting. It is more likely that the cannonball was placed there deliberately. It may have been a marker to show the height of the castle's water supply, or the range of its guns. Whatever the reason, it remains a strange and curious feature, a small piece of military hardware, lodged in a domestic wall. Princes Street is one of Edinburgh's main shopping streets, but it feels different from most. It has a sense of openness and space. This is because the street is missing something: a row of buildings. By an Act of Parliament, shops are only allowed on one side of the street. This was not an accident. It was a deliberate and far-sighted piece of city planning from the very beginning of the new town. The planners wanted to preserve the magnificent view from their new, elegant street. They wanted an uninterrupted panorama of the old town, the valley gardens, and the castle on its rock. So they passed a law to keep one side of the street open forever. It is a rare example of a city prioritizing a view over profit, a decision made 2 centuries ago that we can still appreciate today. Near the entrance to Edinburgh Castle, there is a small, ornate fountain set into a wall. It is called the Witch's Well. It looks old, but it is actually a modern memorial from the early 20th century. It marks a place of terrible suffering. This spot on the castle esplanade was where the city held its public executions by burning. Between the 15th and 18th centuries, hundreds of people, mostly women, were accused of witchcraft and brought here to die. Over 300 were burned at the stake on this spot. The fountain is a quiet and often overlooked memorial to them. A bronze relief shows faces in agony, intertwined with a snake and a foxglove plant. It is a small, somber reminder of a dark chapter in the city's history, hidden in plain sight at a busy tourist spot. The National Museum of Scotland feels like 2 different worlds joined together. And that is because it is. The building is a fusion of 2 very different structures from 2 different centuries. One part is the original Victorian Museum building from 1866. It is a masterpiece of cast iron and glass. Its grand gallery is a vast, light-filled space, with elegant balconies and a soaring roof. It feels like a cathedral of knowledge. Seamlessly attached to this is the modern extension, which opened in 1998. This building is made of solid, sandstone-clad towers. It is inspired by Scottish castles and geology. Walking from one part of the museum to the other is like traveling through time. You move from the light, airy optimism of the Victorians to the solid, rooted modernism of today, all under one roof. If you are trying to catch a train from Waverley Station, the clock on the Grand Hotel next door might give you a moment of panic. The clock on the tower of the Balmoral Hotel is famously and deliberately, set 3 minutes fast. This is not a mistake. It is a tradition that started for a very practical reason. The hotel was originally a railway hotel. The fast clock was a courtesy to travelers. It gave them a few extra moments of grace to get from the hotel, across the road and onto their platform before their train departed. The tradition has been maintained ever since, with one exception. On New Year's Eve, the clock is set to the correct time, so that it can chime in the new year at the exact right moment. For the rest of the year, it remains a helpful, hurried friend. Just a short walk from the busy city center, you can step into another time. Hidden in a steep, wooded valley, is Dean Village. For over 800 years, this was a separate village, completely independent from Edinburgh. It was a community of mills, powered by the river that flows through it, the Water of Leith. The villagers were millers, grinding grain into flour for the city. The arrival of massive industrial mills in the 19th century made these small watermills obsolete. The village fell into decline and poverty. But in recent decades, it has been beautifully restored. The picturesque 19th century buildings, the old millstones, and the sound of the river make it a tranquil oasis. It is a piece of the countryside, a forgotten hamlet, preserved in the heart of the modern city. As you walk through the older parts of Edinburgh, especially in Leith or the Old Town, look closely at the walls of the buildings. You might see the faint outlines of words. These are ghost signs. They are the faded hand-painted advertisements from a bygone era. They are quiet whispers from the city's commercial past. A sign for a forgotten brand of tea, a long-closed printer, or a whiskey merchant who has been out of business for a century. They have survived for decades, slowly weathering away under the sun and the rain. Each one is a small piece of history, a clue to the life of the street as it once was. They are not grand monuments. They are just the humble, accidental survivors of a city that is constantly changing, faint echoes of the voices of the past. The Union Canal ends its journey in a basin called Edinburgh Quay. Today it is a modern development, with sleek apartment buildings and trendy bars. Narrowboats are moored peacefully in the still water. It is hard to imagine that this was once an industrial waterway, a vital artery for carrying coal. The canal's commercial purpose was killed by the railways. For a long time it was neglected, but it has been reborn as a place for leisure. While its Edinburgh end is now quiet, the canal is part of a larger story. Further west, it connects to another canal, via one of the most remarkable pieces of modern engineering in Scotland, the Falkirk Wheel. This unique rotating boat lift is a 21st century solution to a 19th century transport network, a spectacular tribute to the canal's industrial past. Hidden from public view, right in the heart of the city's legal district, lies one of Edinburgh's most beautiful rooms. Beneath the floors of Parliament House, where the High Courts sit, is the Advocates' Library. Founded in 1682, this is not a public library. It is the private, working library for the Scottish Bar. It is a magnificent, multi-level space, with towering shelves holding hundreds of thousands of books. The air is thick with the smell of old paper and leather. It is a place of quiet, serious study. The library holds centuries of Scotland's written history, from priceless medieval manuscripts to modern legal texts. It is a stunning, secret space, a cathedral of books hidden beneath the feet of lawyers and judges, a silent repository of the nation's memory and laws. On George Street in the New Town, there is a bar and restaurant called the Dome. The name gives a clue to what you will find inside. The building was once the head office of the Commercial Bank of Scotland, built in 1847. It was designed to impress, to project an image of wealth and stability. When you walk into the main room, you understand why. The space is breathtaking. It is a vast circular chamber, and high above you is a massive, ornate glass dome. It floods the room with natural light. The bank is long gone, but the building's grandest feature remains. The modern circular bar is situated directly beneath the center of the dome. It is a spectacular example of adaptive reuse, where the grandeur of 19th century finance has been repurposed for 21st century leisure. The North Bridge is a vital artery in the city, carrying a constant flow of traffic between the old and new towns. But the bridge you see today is not the original. The first North Bridge was a product of the 18th century. It was a symbol of the city's ambition to connect its past and future. But it was a troubled project. During its construction in 1769, part of the bridge suddenly collapsed, killing 5 people. It was a major disaster and a public embarrassment. The bridge was eventually completed, but it was always too narrow for the growing city. By the end of the 19th century, it was clear that a replacement was needed. The current bridge, a robust Victorian structure of steel and stone, was opened in 1897. It was designed to carry a new technology: electric trams. On the outskirts of Edinburgh, beneath an ordinary suburban street, lies a complete mystery. Gilmerton Cove is a network of tunnels and chambers, all carved by hand from the solid sandstone bedrock. There are rooms with stone benches, strange carved tables, and even a small well. But nobody knows who made it, or why. The official story is that it was the work of a local blacksmith in the 18th century. But the scale and strangeness of the place have led to many other theories. Was it a secret drinking den for local gentry? A hideout for smugglers bringing illicit goods into the city? Or perhaps a secret meeting place for a religious sect? The truth is, we don't know. It remains one of Edinburgh's most baffling and atmospheric puzzles, a hand-carved enigma hidden beneath a modern housing estate. The narrow alleys that run off the Royal Mile have names that are clues to a forgotten map of the city. These alleys, known as closes or wynds, were once the heart of Edinburgh's economy. Many of them are named for the trades that were once practiced there, or the markets they led to. Fleshmarket Close was where the city's butchers had their shops and slaughterhouses. The name is a stark reminder of the bloody reality of the trade. Fishmarket Close was the steep path that led down to the fish market in the Cowgate Valley. And Old Tolbooth Wynd was the alley that ran alongside the city's infamous prison. These names are not just quaint historical labels. They are a form of urban memory, telling us what used to happen on this very spot, long before the souvenir shops arrived. After the disastrous Battle of Flodden in 1513, Edinburgh built a wall. The Flodden Wall was a defensive ring that defined the city's boundaries for centuries. It forced the city to grow upwards, creating the tall tenements of the old town. Most of the wall is gone now, torn down to allow the city to expand. But if you know where to look, you can still find fragments of it. The most obvious remaining sections are in the Greyfriars Kirkyard, where the dark stone wall forms the boundary of the cemetery. Another piece can be found along the steep steps of the Vennel, near the Grassmarket. These surviving stones are a physical reminder of the city's old limits. They are the line between the medieval city that lived in fear, and the modern city that grew beyond it. On a clear night, the copper domes on top of Blackford Hill catch the city lights. This is the Royal Observatory of Edinburgh. It was built here in 1894 for a very specific reason: to get away from the city. The original observatory on Calton Hill had become useless. The smoke from the coal fires of Old Reekie and the new gaslights of the city made it impossible to see the stars clearly. So they moved to this hill, on what was then the rural outskirts. From here, the astronomers had a clear, dark view of the heavens. But the city did not stand still. Over the last century, Edinburgh has grown and expanded, creeping right up to the foot of Blackford Hill. The observatory is still an active research centre, but it is once again surrounded by the light and life of the city it tried to escape. In the 19th century, people had a deep and very real fear of being buried alive. Medical science was not always able to tell for certain when someone was truly dead. Stories circulated of people waking up in their own coffins. This fear led to some ingenious, if morbid, inventions. The Surgeons' Hall Museums in Edinburgh have an example of one such device, a safety coffin. It was designed by a Dr. John Bell. The coffin was fitted with a tube that led from the inside up to the surface. This tube was connected to a bell. The idea was that if the person buried inside were to wake up, They could pull a cord, ring the bell, and be rescued. It is a strange and slightly desperate invention, a testament to a time when the line between life and death was terrifyingly uncertain. Just outside Edinburgh, a giant of red steel strides across the water. The Forth Bridge is one of the world's most iconic railway bridges. When it opened in 1890, it was a wonder of the modern world. It was the first major structure in Britain to be built of steel. Its cantilever design was a revolutionary piece of engineering. At over 1.5 miles long, it was a huge and incredibly bold statement of Victorian confidence and industrial power. It was built to withstand the strong winds of the Firth of Forth, a lesson learned from the tragic collapse of another bridge a few years earlier. Today, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Trains still run across it every day. It remains a powerful and beautiful symbol of the moment when engineering became a form of art. Waverley Station sits in a valley in the heart of Edinburgh. It could have been a dark, subterranean place, but it is not. The station is covered by a vast roof of glass and iron, covering nearly 18 acres. This makes it one of the largest glazed structures in the United Kingdom. The effect is to create a surprisingly bright and open space, right in the middle of the city. Sunlight streams down onto the platforms, illuminating the hustle and bustle below. It is a stark contrast to the dark, underground stations of many other capital cities. The roof creates a kind of greenhouse for travel, a city within a city, sheltered from the Scottish weather but still connected to the sky. It is a grand Victorian space that still feels modern and full of light, a fitting gateway to the city. Every day the city of Edinburgh holds its breath for a single, sharp sound. At precisely 1 o'clock in the afternoon, a cannon is fired from the ramparts of the castle. This is the 1 o'clock gun. The tradition began in 1861. It was a time signal, not for the city, but for the ships in the port of Leith. The sound allowed sailors to set their maritime clocks accurately. The ships are long gone, but the gun still fires. For a moment, the modern city pauses. Tourists jump, locals check their watches. It is a shared, daily ritual, a punctuation mark in the middle of the day. It is the sound of the city's past, a loud, punctual ghost that reminds everyone of the time, and of time itself. It is a rhythm that has been kept for over 150 years. For 3 weeks every August, the city of Edinburgh transforms. The Edinburgh Festival Fringe turns the entire city into a stage. The Royal Mile, the city's main historic street, becomes the chaotic, beating heart of it all. It is no longer just a street. It becomes an open-air theatre, a river of people and performance. Every few feet, a new show is trying to capture your attention. A comedian tells a joke, a group of actors performs a short scene, a magician does a trick. They have just a few minutes to convince the passing crowds that their show is the one to see. The air is thick with the sound of a dozen different performances happening at once. It is a frantic, joyful, and overwhelming ritual, the city's annual, beautiful explosion of creativity. If you buy fish and chips in Edinburgh, you will be asked a very specific question. It is a question that defines a local culinary ritual. The person behind the counter will look at you and ask, "Salt and sauce?" If you are not from here, you might think the persege sauce is ketchup. It is not. Sauce, in an Edinburgh chippy, means one thing: a thin, brown, vinegary concoction that is unique to the city. It is a mixture of brown sauce, like HP sauce, and vinegar, sometimes with a little water. It is a sharp, tangy flavor that cuts through the grease of the fried fish and chips. Some people love it, some people hate it. But it is a taste of Edinburgh, a specific flavor that belongs to this place and nowhere else. It is a small, edible piece of local identity. In the very heart of Edinburgh lies a piece of wild, dramatic landscape. Arthur's Seat is a dormant volcano that rises up from the middle of the city. For the people who live here, climbing it is a regular ritual. On a weekend, or a clear evening, you will see a steady stream of people making their way to the top. The climb is short, but steep. It takes you out of the city, and into a different world of rocks and grass and wind. The reward for the effort is one of the best views in Scotland. From the summit, you can see the entire city laid out below you. You can see the castle, the old town, the new town, and the sea beyond. It is a moment of perspective, a chance to see the whole picture, a ritual of escape and return. New Year's Eve is called Hogmanay in Scotland, and nowhere celebrates it quite like Edinburgh. The city hosts a massive street party, with concerts and crowds filling the city centre. There are fireworks that light up the castle at midnight. But the real climax of the night is a quieter, more personal moment. As the bells chime, thousands of strangers, packed into the streets below the castle, link arms. They begin to sing Auld Lang Syne. It is a song of friendship and farewell to the old year. For a few minutes, the huge, anonymous crowd becomes a single community. It is a moment of shared emotion and camaraderie, a powerful ritual of connection that happens every year. The party is huge, but the most memorable part is this simple, heartfelt song, sung together in the cold night air. There is a heart made of stones, set into the pavement of the Royal Mile. It marks the spot where the door to a hated old prison once stood. For centuries, a strange ritual has been associated with this spot. People spit on the heart of Midlothian as they pass. Originally, this was an act of contempt. People spat to show their disgust for the prison and the cruel justice it represented. The prison is long gone, but the ritual continues. Today, most people who do it are not thinking about the prison. It has become a ritual for good luck. Locals, football fans and tourists all pause for a moment to spit on the heart. It is a small, strange and slightly unsanitary piece of living history. It is a tradition that has changed its meaning but kept its form, a peculiar rhythm of the city street. On the 1st of May, as darkness falls, a procession of fire makes its way up Calton Hill. This is the Beltane Fire Festival. It is a modern reinterpretation of an ancient Celtic ritual that celebrated the arrival of summer. It is a spectacular and dramatic event. A cast of hundreds of volunteer performers, their bodies painted and dressed in elaborate costumes, act out a story. They tell the tale of the May Queen and the Green Man, and the turning of the seasons. The story is told not with words, but with fire, acrobatics, and the relentless, hypnotic beat of drums. The procession moves through the darkness, with flaming torches, and spectacular fire dancing. It is a powerful, primal ritual, a piece of imagined history brought to life against the backdrop of the city's classical monuments. In many Edinburgh pubs, the music is not on a stage. It is in a corner. On any given night in pubs across the city, you can find an informal folk music session. There is no program, no set list, and no real distinction between performers and audience. A few musicians will simply gather around a table. One will start a tune on a fiddle, a guitar will join in, then maybe a flute or a concertina. They play for themselves and for each other. They play traditional Scottish and Irish reels, jigs and slow airs. The music is a living thing, a conversation between the players. It fills the pub with a warm, acoustic energy. It is not a performance. It is a tradition, a quiet, communal ritual that is as much a part of the pub as the beer itself. The Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo is a spectacle of sound and precision. Every night in August, the esplanade of the castle is filled with military bands, dancers and performers from all over the world. The show is a riot of color, music and marching. But after all the noise and excitement, the evening always ends with a moment of pure, haunting stillness. The lights go down. The vast crowd falls silent. A single spotlight comes up on the high ramparts of the castle. In the light, a lone piper stands. He plays a slow, sad lament. The sound of his bagpipes, high and clear, drifts down over the silent arena and the sleeping city below. It is a moment of profound and simple beauty, a final, poignant note that hangs in the night air, long after the piper has gone. On the 25th of January, Scots around the world celebrate Burns Night. It is a tribute to the national poet, Robert Burns. The centerpiece of the celebration is a meal, and the centerpiece of the meal is a haggis. The arrival of the haggis is a moment of high ceremony. It is not simply brought to the table. It is piped into the room by a bagpiper. It is placed before the host, who then recites Burns' famous poem, addressed to a haggis. The poem is a long, affectionate and humorous tribute to the great chieftain O, the Puddin' race. At the climax of the poem, the speaker draws a knife, or a ceremonial dirk, and dramatically cuts the haggis open. It is a piece of culinary theatre, a proud and slightly strange ritual that celebrates a humble dish. Edinburgh is a city built on words. It was the world's first UNESCO City of Literature. This literary culture is not just in the past. It is a quiet, constant rhythm in the life of the city today. You can feel it in the large number of independent bookshops. These are not just places to buy books. They are community hubs, places of quiet discovery. Many of them host evening readings. On any given week, you can find an author, sometimes famous, sometimes a debut novelist, reading from their work. The audiences are usually small and attentive. It is an intimate and simple ritual. A writer, a room full of books, and a group of people who have come to listen. It is the city's literary heart, beating quietly in the back rooms of its bookshops. On New Year's Day, while most of Edinburgh is recovering from the Hogmanay celebrations, a hardy group of people takes part in a bizarre ritual. It is called the Loony Duke. The name says it all. Hundreds of people, many of them still in their party clothes or wearing absurd fancy dress costumes, gather on the shore of the Firth of Forth at South Queensferry. At a given signal they all run, screaming and shouting, into the freezing cold water. The shock of the icy sea is a brutal but effective cure for a hangover. It is a mad, joyful, and very cold way to start the new year. The ritual began as a joke between a few friends in the 1980s. It has now grown into a massive, organized event that raises money for charity. Edinburgh is not always a sunny city. So when a truly warm sunny day arrives, a city-wide ritual unfolds. The people of Edinburgh flock to the meadows. This huge green park in the south of the city becomes the city's collective back garden. The wide, open lawns fill up with people. Students, families and friends spread out blankets and soak up the rare sun. The air fills with the smell of dozens of small, disposable barbecues, cooking sausages and burgers. The sound of frisbees being thrown, guitars being strummed, and children laughing creates a gentle, happy hum. It is a spontaneous, unstructured festival of sunshine. It is the city taking a deep, collective breath, and relaxing together, a simple and joyful response to a break in the clouds. The sound of bagpipes is everywhere on the Royal Mile. Pipers in full Highland dress play for the tourists, their music a constant, powerful soundtrack to the street. But for many locals, this is not the authentic sound of the pipes. The real sound is something quieter, more personal. It is the sound of a lone piper, practicing in a quiet park at dusk. You don't see them, you just hear the notes drifting on the evening air. It might be a student from a nearby school, or just an enthusiast, working on a difficult tune. The sound is distant, slightly melancholy, and not for an audience. It is the sound of the instrument being learned, of a tradition being passed on, one note at a time. It is a private ritual that becomes a public sound, a faint, lonely music for the end of the day. In Edinburgh, a night out often ends not with a final drink, but with a pilgrimage to a bakery. The city has a number of 24-hour bakeries that cater to the late-night crowd. After the pubs and clubs close, a steady stream of people makes its way to these warm, bright havens. They are not looking for bread or cakes. They are there for something hot and savory. A steak pie, a macaroni pie, or a sausage roll. It is a simple, comforting ritual. The food is hot, cheap, and satisfying. It is the perfect end to a long night. Standing on the pavement in the early hours of the morning, eating a hot pie from a paper bag, is a shared experience for generations of students, late-night workers, and partygoers. It is a final, warm and flaky stop on the way home. There is a friendly but constant rivalry between Scotland's two biggest cities, Edinburgh and Glasgow. It is a cultural undercurrent that shapes how people from both cities see themselves and each other. The rivalry is a playful debate about everything. It covers architecture, accents, football teams, and nightlife. The stereotype is that Edinburgh is beautiful, elegant, and a bit reserved, while Glasgow is industrial, gritty, and more friendly. Edinburgh has the castle and the festival. Glasgow has the music scene and the art school. People from Edinburgh might say Glasgow is rough. People from Glasgow might say Edinburgh is pretentious. It is a family argument that has been going on for generations. It is a gentle friction that helps both cities define their own unique character, a rhythm of affectionate opposition. There is no ticket required for one of the best shows in Edinburgh. On any clear evening, a quiet, unstructured ritual takes place on Calton Hill. As the sun begins to go down, a small crowd starts to gather. People wander up the hill and find a spot to sit on the grass. There is no announcement, no official starting time. It is a spontaneous gathering of locals and tourists. They are all there for the same reason: to watch the sky change color over the city, The view from the hill is one of the most famous in Scotland. You can see the monuments on the hill, the skyline of the old town, and the castle in the distance. As the sun sets, it paints the clouds in shades of orange, pink, and purple. It is a simple, silent, and beautiful daily event. Whiskey is Scotland's national drink, and in Edinburgh, it is not just for tourists. For many locals, enjoying a dram of single malt whiskey is a quiet evening pastime. Many pubs in the city have a whiskey wall, a vast selection of bottles from all over Scotland. The ritual is a slow one. It involves choosing a whiskey, perhaps with the advice of the bartender. Then it is about appreciating the color, the smell, and finally, the taste. It is a drink to be nursed, not rushed. It often leads to conversations and debates. Is a smoky, peated whiskey from Islay better than a smooth, sherry cask whiskey from Speyside? It is a ritual of slow appreciation, a warm, complex flavor that is deeply woven into the fabric of the city's social life. Every morning, the city has a pulse. You can feel it most strongly on the North Bridge. This bridge is a major artery, connecting the south of the city and the main train station with the shops and offices of the new town. During the morning rush hour, it becomes a river of movement. A steady flow of red double-decker buses makes its way across, full of commuters. The pavements are crowded with pedestrians, walking purposefully towards their workplaces. They are a silent, fast-moving army, wrapped in coats and carrying coffee cups. The flow is constant and relentless. It is the city waking up and getting to work. It is a daily rhythm of arrival and departure, a tide of people that ebbs and flows with the working day, a vital beat in the heart of the city. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, a temporary new landscape appears in the heart of Edinburgh. The Christmas market takes over Prince's Street Gardens. For over a month, this green space is transformed into a bustling, festive village. The gardens are filled with wooden stalls, selling crafts, gifts, and food. The air is thick with the smell of mulled wine and roasting chestnuts. A giant Ferris wheel is erected, its bright lights temporarily redefining the city's skyline. It has become a dominant winter ritual for the city. Families and friends wander through the market, soaking up the festive atmosphere. It is a huge, commercial, and sometimes crowded event. But it brings light and warmth to the city during the darkest, coldest time of the year, a modern tradition that has quickly become part of the city's rhythm. The coffee shop has become the modern version of the public house in Edinburgh. The city is full of independent coffee shops, each with its own character and clientele. They are the scene of a quiet, daily ritual. In the morning, they are filled with people grabbing a coffee on their way to work. During the day, they become offices for freelancers, their laptops open, their headphones on, They are places for friends to meet and catch up, for students to study, and for strangers to sit side by side, reading a book, or just watching the world go by. Each person is in their own quiet bubble, but they are all part of a shared, public space. It is a very 21st century form of community, a daily rhythm fueled by caffeine, and a quiet sense of togetherness. At the end of August, after the festivals have packed up and gone home, a quiet cleansing ritual takes place across the city. For 3 weeks, every available surface has been covered in posters. Lampposts, walls and hoardings have been plastered with layers and layers of paper, advertising thousands of shows. Now, it is time to wash the city clean. Teams of workers move through the streets with scrapers and pressure washers. They peel away the thick, wet layers of paper. It is a satisfying process. With each layer that is removed, the city underneath is revealed. The stone, the metal and the wood reappear. It is as if the city is shedding its skin, returning to its normal state. It is a quiet, methodical ritual that marks the true end of the festival season, a return to stillness. Look up at the rooftops of the older tenement buildings in Edinburgh, and you might see a small, hand-built wooden hut. This is a ducat, the local word for a pigeon loft. These small structures are a fading feature of the city's skyline. They are remnants of a once popular working-class hobby, keeping and racing pigeons. For many men, especially in areas like Leith, this was a serious passion. It was a quiet, personal ritual. It involved caring for the birds, training them, and waiting for them to return from a race. The number of ducats has dwindled over the years. The hobby is not as popular as it once was, but the ones that remain are a poignant reminder of a different kind of city life. A quiet connection to the sky from the top of a tall stone building. To hear the real rhythm of Edinburgh, you need to listen to how people speak. The local dialect is full of its own words and phrases. It has a music that is unique to this place. You might hear someone use the word ken instead of no, or say that something is braw when they mean it is good. If someone offers to chum you, they are offering to accompany you. The phrase, "Our dinner ken, I don't know," is one of the most authentic sounds of the city. It is a rhythm that has been shaped by centuries of history. It is not something you will find in the guidebooks. It is a living, breathing part of the city's identity. It is the sound of the city talking to itself, a quiet, verbal ritual of belonging. The stroke of midnight on Hogmanay is just the beginning of the New Year ritual. After the singing of Auld Lang Syne, another tradition begins: first footing. The first foot is the first person to cross the threshold of a home in the new year. According to tradition, the first footer should be a tall, dark-haired male. This is thought to be a throwback to the Viking invasions, when a tall, fair-haired stranger at your door was bad news. The first-footer should not arrive empty-handed. They must bring symbolic gifts, a lump of coal to represent warmth, shortbread for food, and a bottle of whiskey for good cheer. These gifts are meant to bring good fortune to the household for the year ahead. It is a ritual of hope and hospitality, a way of welcoming the future into your home. In a quiet corner of the University of Edinburgh's Anatomy Museum, there is a small, unassuming object with a truly gruesome story. It is a pocketbook, bound in dark, polished leather. It looks like any other antique book. But the leather is not from an animal. It is made from the skin of a man named William Burke. Burke, along with his partner William Hare, was a notorious murderer in 19th century Edinburgh. They killed people and sold their bodies to the university's anatomy school for dissection. After Burke was caught and executed, his body was also dissected in the name of science. As a final, grim piece of justice, a small part of his skin was tanned and used to bind this book. It is a chilling and strange artifact, a pocketbook that serves as a permanent reminder of a dark and morbid trade. Edinburgh Zoo has a resident who is not just an animal, but a high-ranking military officer. His name is Sir Nils Olav III. He is a king penguin. He is also a brigadier and the official mascot of the Norwegian King's Guard. This strange tradition began in 1972 as a gesture of friendship between Scotland and Norway. Since then, every time the Norwegian Guard visits Edinburgh for the military tattoo, they pay a formal visit to their penguin. They line up and salute him. Over the years he has been steadily promoted through the ranks. He was even knighted in 2008, in a ceremony approved by the King of Norway. It is a wonderfully absurd and heartwarming piece of international diplomacy. A penguin in Edinburgh holds a higher military rank than most of the soldiers who come to see him. Living in a tall tenement building in Old Edinburgh presented a serious problem: waste disposal. With no indoor plumbing, people had to get rid of their household rubbish and sewage somehow. The solution was simple and direct. They threw it out of the window. To avoid unfortunate accidents, a warning cry was usually shouted before the contents of a bucket were tipped onto the street below. The cry was, "Gardez-le." It is believed that this strange word is a corruption of the French phrase, "Gardez-l'eau," which means, "Watch out for the water." This is thought to be a linguistic relic from the time of the Auld Alliance, a long-standing friendship between Scotland and France. It is a polite, French-inspired warning for a very impolite and unsanitary Scottish habit, a strange echo of international relations in the city's dirty streets. The statue of Greyfriars Bobby is one of Edinburgh's most famous and beloved landmarks. It is a small statue of a small dog, a tribute to a loyal Skye Terrier. If you look at the statue today, you will notice that its nose is a bright, shiny gold. This is because for decades, tourists have been rubbing the dog's nose for good luck. The constant touching has worn away the dark patina of the bronze, revealing the metal underneath. But this tradition is a modern invention. It has no historical basis, and was likely started by a tour guide to entertain their group. In fact, conservators are now trying to discourage the practice. The constant rubbing is causing serious damage to the statue. The shiny nose is not a sign of good luck. It is a sign of a city loving one of its monuments a little too much. In the quiet, respectable neighborhood of Morningside, there is a street that looks like it belongs in a different country and a different century. Tucked away behind the main road is a small lane that has been transformed into a Wild West town. There is a saloon, a jail, a cantina, and even a place to tie up your horse. The street was not built for a film. It was created in the 1990s as a quirky and elaborate advertising campaign for a furniture company that specialized in pine wood. The company is long gone, but the street remains. The facades are a little weathered now, but they are still a bizarre and surprising sight. It is a small piece of the American frontier, inexplicably dropped into a leafy suburb of the Scottish capital, a strange and wonderful piece of marketing that became a permanent oddity. In Greyfriars Kirkyard, a quiet and ancient cemetery, one particular grave receives an unusual amount of attention. The headstone is for a man named Thomas Riddell, who died in 1806. For most of its existence, this grave was just one among thousands. But in recent years it has become a major pilgrimage site for fans of the Harry Potter books. The author, J.K. Rowling, wrote much of the first book in cafes near the graveyard. Fans believe that she saw this headstone and used the name for her villain, Lord Voldemort, whose real name was Tom Riddle. The grave now attracts a constant stream of visitors, who leave notes, flowers, and other tributes. It is a strange case of a real historical person becoming famous for a fictional namesake, a 19th century general remembered for his connection to a dark wizard. The guillotine is famously associated with the French Revolution, but Scotland had its own, earlier version of a mechanical beheading machine. It was called the Maiden. It was used for public executions in Edinburgh from the mid-16th century until the early 18th century. It was a grimly efficient piece of civic machinery. It consisted of a heavy wooden frame with a lead weight attached to a sharp, angled blade. The Maiden was seen as a more humane method of execution than the traditional axe, as it was quicker and more reliable. The original machine is now on display at the National Museum of Scotland. It stands there in a quiet gallery, a tall, dark and imposing object. It is a chilling reminder of a time when justice was a public spectacle, and death was administered by a machine. The Thistle Chapel in St. Giles Cathedral is a small, hidden gem of breathtaking craftsmanship. It was built in 1911 for the Knights of the Thistle, Scotland's highest chivalric order. Every surface of the chapel is covered in fantastically intricate wood and stone carving. The detail is almost overwhelming. It is a masterpiece of the arts and crafts movement. If you look very closely at the carvings on the knights' stalls, you will find small, quirky and humorous details hidden among the grand Gothic designs. The medieval woodcarvers who did this kind of work were famous for hiding little jokes in their carvings. The modern carvers of the Thistle Chapel continued this tradition. Hidden among the saints and symbols there is a carving of a small angel, playing not a harp, but a set of bagpipes. Edinburgh has a famous old nickname, Auld Reekie. It sounds affectionate, a cozy name for an old friend. But the reality behind the name was anything but pleasant. Reekie means smoky in the Old Scots language. The name was a literal description of the city. For centuries the old town was covered in a thick, foul-smelling cloud of smoke. This reek came from the thousands of coal fires that people used for heating and cooking. It was mixed with the smoke from the city's many breweries and workshops. This perpetual smog hung over the narrow, crowded streets, blocking out the sun and filling the air with a pungent, acrid smell. The nickname was not a term of endearment. It was a statement of fact about a city that was, for a very long time, one of the smokiest and smelliest in Europe. There is a pub on the Royal Mile called The World's End. It sounds like a dramatic or apocalyptic name for a pub. But like many things in Edinburgh, the name is a very literal piece of history. The pub is located near the bottom of the High Street. This was the site of the Netherbow Port, one of the main gates in the old Flodden Wall that surrounded the city. For the ordinary people of 16th century Edinburgh, the city was their entire world. The wall was the boundary of their existence. The land outside the gate was a different place, the separate burgh of Canongate. So this pub was, quite literally, the last pub inside the city walls. It was at the end of their world. The name is a reminder of a time when the city was a smaller, more contained place. The Meadows is a large, flat, open park, a green lung for the city. But it was not always land. For centuries, this area was a shallow lake, the Burgh Loch. It was the city's secondary water supply after the Nor Loch. In the 18th century, the loch was drained to create parkland. The city's first experiments with landscape gardening took place here. But the history of this place is much older. During landscaping work in the 19th century, a remarkable discovery was made. A hoard of Bronze Age weapons was found, buried in the mud of the old loch. This suggests that the area was a significant site for people thousands of years ago, long before Edinburgh existed. The weapons may have been a ritual offering to the water. The park we see today covers a place of ancient, mysterious activity. Every city has a coat of arms. a symbol of its identity. Edinburgh's is a complex design, featuring a castle and a woman. But it is the Latin motto at the bottom that reveals a key aspect of the city's historical character. The motto is, Nisi Dominus Frustra. It is a quote from Psalm chapter 127 in the Bible. It translates as, "Without the Lord everything is in vain," or more simply, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it." This motto was adopted during the time of the Reformation. It is a statement of civic piety, and a reminder of the city's deep Protestant roots. You can see it carved on public buildings and on the city's official documents. It is a small, quiet but constant reminder of the religious faith that was once a driving force in the city's life. Greyfriars Kirkyard is a famously atmospheric place, but one section of the graveyard is so notorious that it is kept locked. This is the Covenanters' prison. It is a walled-off section at the back of the cemetery. In the 17th century, over 1,000 religious and political prisoners were held here in the open air, with little food or shelter. Many died of exposure and mistreatment. In recent decades, this part of the graveyard became famous for a different reason. It gained a reputation as one of the most haunted places in the world. Reports of strange phenomena and paranormal activity became common. This led to a wave of vandalism and late-night thrill seekers. The problem became so bad that the city authorities decided to lock the gates. Now, you can only enter this haunted corner on a guided tour. In the 17th and 18th centuries, before streetlights and proper addresses, navigating the dark, labyrinthine closes of the old town was a challenge. To solve this problem, Edinburgh had a unique institution: the caddies. The caddies were a formal guild of street porters and guides. They were not just random boys on the street. They were licensed, wore a uniform, and were known for their honesty. They had an encyclopedic knowledge of the city. They knew every close, every wind, and every tenement. They knew who lived where, and could be trusted to carry messages, parcels, or even people in sedan chairs. They were the human version of a GPS system, the city's memory made flesh. They were an essential part of the social fabric of the Enlightenment city, the knowledgeable guides to its chaotic streets. The National Library of Scotland is home to millions of books. But one of its greatest treasures is a book that tried to contain all knowledge. The library holds a copy of the first edition of the Encyclopaedia Britannica. This groundbreaking reference work was a product of the Scottish Enlightenment. It was first published right here in Edinburgh, in installments between 1768 and 1771. It was a bold and ambitious project, an attempt to gather all human knowledge, from science and philosophy to practical skills, and make it accessible. The first edition was the work of just a few men, who compiled it in a small office near the Royal Mile. It was a testament to the intellectual confidence and energy of the city at that time. The book that would define the encyclopedia for centuries was born in Edinburgh. There is a public staircase in Edinburgh that is also a work of art and a geology lesson. The Scotsman's Steps connect the old and new towns, running down the side of the North Bridge. For years, it was a dark and neglected staircase. But in 2011, it was transformed by the artist Martin Creed. He turned the 104 steps into a beautiful and surprising installation. Each step is clad in a different type of marble, sourced from all over the world. Walking up or down the staircase is like walking through a geological rainbow. There is white marble from Italy, green from Brazil, and black from China. Each step has its own unique pattern and color. It is a simple but brilliant idea that turns a functional piece of city infrastructure into a joyful and unexpected experience of color and texture. David Hume was one of the greatest philosophers of the Enlightenment. His ideas about skepticism and human nature changed the course of Western thought. He was a central figure in Edinburgh's intellectual life, a man of international fame. He lived and died in the city's new town, in a house he had built for himself. Today, the site of his home is occupied by a large, modern office building. On the wall of this building, there is a small, easily missed bronze plaque. It simply notes that David Hume lived and died here. It is a remarkably understated memorial for a man of such giant intellectual stature. In a city full of grand monuments to soldiers and kings, the memorial to its greatest philosopher is a tiny, quiet and modest little sign, a footnote on a wall. In the crowded old town, every inch of space was valuable. This led to some very creative and unusual building solutions. A perfect example can be found squeezed into a tiny gap on the Royal Mile. Here you can find what is claimed to be the narrowest building in Edinburgh. It is a tall, thin sliver of a building, wedged between two much larger neighbors. It is just wide enough for a single door, and one window on each floor. It is a classic example of how the city's builders made use of every possible piece of land within the old city walls. It is a testament to the pressure of population in the medieval city. It is a strange, almost comical building, a vertical line of stone and glass that shows how the city was forced to adapt to its own self-imposed boundaries. The Royal Botanic Garden in Edinburgh is a world-renowned centre for the study of plants. It has collections from all over the globe. But one corner of the garden is a particularly immersive experience. Here, the gardeners have created an authentic, Chinese hillside. It is a small, specific piece of China, recreated in the heart of Scotland. The garden features plants that are native to China, many of them grown from seeds collected on scientific expeditions. There is a traditional Chinese pavilion, called a Chaitikei Ting, which was built by craftsmen from China. There is a waterfall, a pond, and carefully placed rocks. It is designed to be a tranquil and contemplative space. It is a beautiful example of the garden's scientific and cultural mission, a living bridge between two very different landscapes. Panmure House on the Royal Mile was the final home of the great economist and philosopher Adam Smith. It is a fine example of a grand Georgian townhouse. Like many buildings of that period, its design is all about order, balance, and perfect symmetry. But if you look closely at the facade, you will notice something is not quite right. One of the windows is a fake. It is a trompe-l'œil, which is French for deceive the eye. It is a flat painting on the wall, cleverly designed to look like a real window, complete with shadows and reflections. A real window could not be placed there for structural reasons, perhaps because of a chimney or an internal wall. So, to maintain the building's perfect symmetrical appearance from the outside, the architect simply painted one in. It is a small, charming deception. At the junction where the curving Cockburn Street meets the Royal Mile, there is a building with a very sharp corner. The building comes to an acute, almost knife-like point. This is known as a spite corner. The story behind it is a tale of urban rivalry. Legend says that when the new street was being built in the 19th century, the developer of this building had a dispute with the owner of the property next door. To get his revenge, he designed his building with this sharp, jutting corner. The point of the building was specifically designed to block the light and the view of his rival's property. We don't know if the story is true, but it is a good story. It speaks to a city where land was valuable, and disputes between neighbors could be literally set in stone. As you walk down the Royal Mile towards the Palace of Holyrood House, you will cross a line of brass studs set into the road. These studs are easy to miss. They are a quiet, subtle marker of a major historical boundary. They mark the exact location of the Netherbow port. This was a massive, fortified gatehouse that once stood on this spot. It was the main entrance to the city of Edinburgh from the east. It separated the city proper from the independent burgh of Canongate. For centuries, this gate was a real and powerful barrier. It was closed at night, and tolls were collected here. The gate is long gone, demolished in the 18th century to improve traffic flow. But these small, shiny brass studs remain, a faint and ghostly outline of the Great Wall that once divided the city. The Surgeons' Hall Museums are home to one of the largest and oldest collections of pathological anatomy in the world. It is a fascinating, if sometimes gruesome, record of disease and medicine through the ages. One part of the collection is particularly revealing about a major change in modern life. The museums house a vast collection of skulls and jawbones from the 19th century. Many of them show evidence of severe tooth decay. This was a relatively new problem. In the 19th century, sugar, once a luxury for the rich, became cheap and widely available for the first time. This led to a dramatic increase in sugar consumption, and a corresponding decline in dental health. The rows of decayed teeth in the museum are a silent, stark testament to the painful consequences of the world's newfound sweet tooth. Riddle's Court is a hidden courtyard off the Royal Mile, a quiet space with a rich history. If you look carefully at the stonework of one of the 16th century buildings, you can find a small, charming and unusual carving. It is a carving of a cabbage. This is known as the kale pot, kale being the old Scots word for cabbage, or a type of kale. The carving is believed to be a tribute to a former owner of the building, Baillie John McMorran. He was a wealthy and powerful merchant in the late 16th century. The story goes that he made his fortune, or at least part of it, by trading in cabbages. It is a lovely, humble detail on a grand building. It is a small, stone tribute to the source of a man's wealth, a permanent reminder of the power of the humble cabbage. The Flodden Wall was built in a hurry after a military disaster. The city needed to build this new defensive wall quickly, but it had to be paid for. The city council came up with a solution. They decided to impose a tax on all goods being brought into the city. This tax was collected at the city gates. But the law was written in such a way that it had a strange and morbid consequence. For a time, the tax applied to everything that passed through the gates, including the dead. If a funeral procession needed to pass through one of the city gates to get to a graveyard outside the walls, the coffin was considered a good, and a fee had to be paid. It was a grim and bureaucratic detail, a tax on grief, born from the city's desperate need for security. Our walk through Edinburgh is coming to an end. Wherever you've drifted to, you don't need to come back. There's nothing more to listen for tonight. Sleep well.